Think we're live.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, welcome to Contractor's Corner. I'm Adrian Park, and with me today, the founder of Contractor AI and J Carter Roofing. He's a system samurai. Some would say pipeline pirate.
Ooh.
And little known fact,
Ooh.
little known fact, J Carter Roofing started 23 years ago at he was the age of 15, just a little pup, 15 years old, from his parents' basement, and for all we know, he may still be there right now. John J. Carter.
Ah, they get better and better every week, I swear.
Oh man, it's actually fun to come up with them. So, all right, so happy Friday, everybody. We're talking more about something that uh, something that you and I have done a lot of, and something that I think we are still working towards being better at. And and so we're talking more about planning, but talking about like how we can get our teams involved
Mm,
more. And and so one of the experiences that was really it's like the little things. It was really eye-opening to me. So I remember, and I've told this story before, but it bears repeating. So I remember in the last couple, I took over a mason restoration business that was on paper, insolvent. Debt coming out of owed the IRS like 150 grand, owed vendors that had been paid for years. I mean, it was a rough scene, which is not uncommon. I mean,
no.
we weren't unique, right? That's not uncommon for contractors and for business owners in general. You get behind, and your vendors become your creditors. So it was really hard, and certain things. So we turned it around, and I've talked about that. And then there were these little things that happened, after we were making a lot of money, that just surprised me. It was like these little things. Like, for example, um, you know, we uh, we did some basic things with like hoodies and t-shirts, like kind of
Hmm.
making them a little bit better. We I came up with this slogan called "Restoring History" because we were historical restoration, and then we had artwork made for like some of the jobs. It looked really good, and I thought, oh, this is like an upgrade, and I thought people would like it. What I didn't expect was that when I sent a text out to my foreman, after like all the merch came in, and threw them in the back of my van, these boxes and whatever else, and so I roll up to the job, and I swear, Jay, I felt like the ice cream man.
For
like,
sure.
like, have you ever seen Eddie Murphy's? Was it Raw, where he's like, "Ice cream"? you
Right.
know, like that's what it was like. And I'm getting chill bumps because it's this silly little thing. And I went to my one of my top guys, and I was like, "Hey," I said, "What's the deal? What's going on?" Like, because I mean, literally, the whole crew came around, and they were. I mean, it was again. You would have thought I was passing out gold bars, and they
Hmm.
were just safety orange hoodies with the company logo, and again, a little artwork we did. Nothing fancy. And and he's like, "Well, let's talk about it later." Because everybody's around. So, okay, sure, yeah. So we're we're chatting about the job, and I go, "Hey, that thing you like, what's the deal with that? Well, why is everybody freaking out over? They're just hoodies. I mean, not fancy, just plain Jane,
Hmm.
basic." And I go, "What's the deal?" He goes, "When you came in, I had a hard time getting guys to wear their t-shirts, like wear their stuff
Hmm.
with the logo, because they were embarrassed."
Hmm.
I go, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "At one point, they made us pay for them." I was like, I didn't know that. That must have been before I got there. And I said, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Now he's like at least once a week, every couple of days, like someone will ask me, 'Hey, when are we getting more t-shirts? When are we getting more hats?'" I was like, really? He goes, yeah. So he goes, the guys want to give them to their, wives and
Mhm.
girlfriends. And I was just, and again, I such a little thing. I was, but I was so stunned by that because I was like, again, because it wasn't, these weren't cool. There was nothing
Mhm.
fancy about them. I mean, they were better, but they weren't like, they weren't great. And I remember thinking, wow, like that's like I had so much of all the things that we did, making millions of dollars and turning the business around and getting in a position where it could be sold and all that stuff. That was one of the best moments because I was like, wow, these guys like I realized like this isn't just a bunch of men and women punching a clock and getting their shit done and then punching out and going home. Like, and it's not just a team anymore. Like, we had a tribe of men and women that watched out for each other. And it was, again, this might sound goofy, but like one of the most beautiful experiences of my professional career in 25 years. And so I want to maybe if we can and you if you would have again if you would have looked at the business in 2016, 17, 18, you would have never expected that to be. I wouldn't have. I was shocked. I was like, really, I couldn't believe it. So, you know, you have a similar, like very similar story, Jay, in
Y-
terms of the loyalty that you have with your employees and like what they do when
Right.
you're basically not there, and the like what they do for you, for the business, for your customers, for your partners and affiliates and so on. And so I want to see if we could share a
I,
couple things
yeah.
today, that help guys to kind of get, because if you don't have that, that's okay, right? We all have to we all start somewhere. And I think a lot of I can hear, because I know that like this is what I hear from my buddies, like, that's bullshit. No one cares about that. It doesn't make you money. But that's
So
not true.
yeah.
It
So
does make
let,
you money. It's very profitable to have a team or a tribal team like that.
Right. So, but it's rare, and I'll tell you kind of first from my perspective as a coach, and as looking at hundreds of contractors, businesses, being under the hood. There was something that some people naturally do well, and they
Right.
get a result. Okay, so I'll tell you exactly what that whole experience you had, Vince, because I've got to see it and see things get turned around. So, the difference between leadership and management is vision. Okay. So
Okay.
when you came in and you started changing the vision of the company, your staff bought in. And they did that
Yeah.
by using the sweaters, by showing you support through the company merch and stuff. If your staff don't buy in and they're not on board with you and they're just there for a job, most of the time, 90% of the time, ownership and leadership have to look at themselves and go, am I managing? And am
Yeah.
I micromanaging? Because, like, again, you give somebody a pathway that says, hey, come work for me for the next 40 years in these terrible conditions while I boss
Yeah.
you around, tell you what to do with
Right.
no
Right.
opportunity. Nobody's going to buy in on that. You're selling your vision every single day. That's your job as the leader of any business or organization. And that's where you want to aspire to be as a contractor in all circumstances. Now, some people do that better than others. Some people
Right.
share their vision. Some people naturally bring that to the table. All right, they're visionaries, and I think you're one of them as well. In terms of when you get something in your mind, you're painting a picture for yourself first, and then
Right.
you're sharing that, and people are making decisions. All right, and for somebody that's coming to work for a company and as an employee and a staff member, you remember there's a different mentality there. All people want to be led.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be told what to do. Okay.
Right.
So when we come in and we implement good leadership, all right, these are the byproducts of it. All right. So you don't have to force things. You don't have to stand over somebody. But too many owners forget that their job is not to stand over top of people and
Right.
make sure everything's under control. That's not your job. Your job is to lead your team with your vision and to keep them motivated to the vision. You have to consistently get them to buy in. And those are the signs. Though, what you just explained right there is
Yeah.
how I test the buy-in. Like
Right.
if you don't take it to them and share it with them so it becomes all of yours, all right, you're just telling people what to do. And I think,
Right.
again, like I said, when I look at other companies, and I've looked at huge companies, 100, 150 staff with, bad leaders, where
Right.
they went the micromanagement style, and like nobody was happy. And when
Right.
they put out t-shirts and swag, just
No one
disappeared.
cares.
No one ever seen
Yeah.
them on the job
Right.
sites, because
Right.
employees in general, we find, are they work passively. If they don't support the company, they don't want to be there, and it's just a job to them. That sweater or something's going in the bin. Like, they don't give a shit, right? And those are the signs
Yeah.
of an issue that's deeper than you think, right?
Well, I
So
think too,
yeah,
Jay, it's not just, you know, I remember, so we also rolled out a profit share, cash bonus profit
there you
share.
go.
And I thought that honestly, for even up until when I left the business, I thought that was the primary motivator.
It's not.
And then I realized, I don't know, after, oh no, that was, I mean, it helped a lot. I mean, it was great because, the people that like my top performers, like they were, I mean, they stepped up their game in huge ways, but it was, it was the fact that we had a tribal team where it was like a tribe of, like we all had this goal and it mattered, but like it wasn't just about the money
No.
because they knew that I gave a shit about them, whether it was personally or professionally or their safety or whatever else. And because of that, like they reciprocated that.
Yeah.
And it was again, you know, I mean, again, I think we have to do the money things and all that because nobody has a no. I didn't have a red cross on my on my hard hat or on my business card. We're not doing this for free,
Hmm.
but like it's the camaraderie and the connection, with us, all of us, that like that really was like that was the difference. And by the way, just full full transparency here, that was, I figured that out. I didn't start there because I was I mean, early on I was the a-hole boss. In fact, one of my top guys, I mean, amazing Mason, like amazing leader, like when I'm, just he crushed, I mean, just incredible guy. The first We were getting killed. So it was 2017. I walk on a job site. He comes back from a very serious injury. I I don't say hello. I don't introduce myself. I walk up and I go, "Hey, where's your fucking hard hat? Where's your mat?" Like I'm screaming at him. I mean, he's up in, he's 60 feet in the air and, in a lift. And I'm yelling at the guy. And, first of all, I did apologize for that, but like just stupid, right?
Hmm.
And I'm chirping at him. And, I mean, to be frank, it was probably a year before like he and I were good, you
Yeah.
know, because he didn't like me. And you know what? He was right.
But
I was an a-hole,
right. Right. So let's unravel that. I mean, and again, these are real things that you can do today as business owner. Everybody can always improve in these areas, but here's two things that guide a company and allow you to be in a leadership position, and what allows me to be here, and so on and so forth.
Right,
And they may
right,
seem simple, but it comes to, what are the core values? What are the boundaries and the rules to the game? Like, what is
right,
the ethics that we're going to have between each other?
right,
Again, if one of our core values is respect, all right, well, that would never have happened if you've been drilled on respecting
right,
staff no matter which level they're at, and
right,
communicating with everyone as an equal. That would have already been in place. Those are the rules. Now, again, coming
right,
back to how leaders guide their companies, and where really contractors have to do a lot of work in general, because when you're the trade guy, when you're the guy on the tools, which most of the guys probably listening have been at one point or another, the transition to manager and being able to manage crews and
Yeah.
manage staff,
Yep.
it's literally drilled into you, and you have to manage them because you're dealing with people
Right.
that may be not trained, and you're accountable. But it's a day to
Right.
day, minute to minute, like, you do this, you do that, like, and that becomes kind of, graduated into managing crews, right?
Right.
There is there's a necessary evil there in terms of you have to be able to get a good manager before you can become a CEO, before you can become
Right.
a good leader. But the
100%.
but then there's the gap again, is that now you rip that identity down, you grow a little bit, take that mask
Right.
off, and all of a sudden now you have to be the visionary and the leader. And I think guys get stuck big time. And I see where, the majority of companies, I would say, are in the $1 million to $2 million range, right?
Right.
And they're stuck. That is the longest grind. Like getting to $1 million is tough. That's your first milestone. Two is like from 1 to 3, and then
Yeah.
above that, right? So I find a lot of guys over and over again can't figure out why they can't scale the business, why their team won't take charge and own things.
Right.
And it's because
Yeah.
they're
Yep.
stuck in the manager position.
Right.
And what happens is they take losses, they take damage, they get behind, and they can't figure
Yeah.
out why their business isn't growing. I do all these things, and I hear it day in and day out, and
Right.
I have to give them the hard pill and go, listen, if you took the time and effort, stop working on your business, and I'm that might be controversial, but do not work on your business. You need to work on yourself. You need to fix
Right.
yourself and
Yeah.
become the leader and get your vision in front of you. I mean, it's something that even if you're not good at, is required. The vision, the core values. If you want to take a company from a million to 3 million and beyond, and 10 million, 15, 20 million, if you don't
Yeah.
have those things in place, and every single company that I've encountered, including my own, that have hit those numbers, all have those things in place. There's no, it's not software, it's not
Yeah.
systems, it's none of that.
Right.
It's the leadership, and again, here's a couple break points in a business as you're scaling. That's one of the break points, is leadership. And the difference between management and leadership, you can't
You,
scale with management,
yeah.
you can only scale
You
with
said
leadership.
something. You said something a few weeks ago, and we clipped this. I saw that, and I was like, "This is great." And because I had, to be honest, I never thought of it like that. And you said, you don't have to be a good leader to
Nope.
follow the principles of
That's right.
leadership.
That's right. You
And
don't.
I was like, that's a lot of hope for a lot of people, because not everybody, I mean, that it is, for some of us it comes a little more naturally, right?
Mhm.
But for those of us that it doesn't, you don't, it's okay.
Well,
It is a skill just like anything else
a-
that you can
absolutely.
develop. And if you follow, like, if you follow the plays, or you follow the, playbook, whatever you want to call it, or you follow the principles, you can be a good
It's
leader if you just do what good leaders do,
again, and
right?
think about every important aspect in your business: sales, marketing. What is it? What is it at its core? It's
Yeah,
leadership.
you're
It's
leading, yeah.
leadership, right? So when we understand that principle, you don't, like, again, I'm a natural micromanager. That is like, those are the chains that I had to break, and it kept me stuck.
Yeah,
It wasn't
right.
it wasn't profitability. It wasn't like I banged my head against the wall for a decade. All right.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
until I started self-improving and opening my eyes to, like, hey, you know
yeah.
what? I'm a shit boss. I am terrible. Like everything I do. No, and again, it was hard. It was hard to have that reflection of
Yeah,
myself and
no,
go,
I know, it's
and to this day I still struggle with some things. Like I always want to do it myself, and it constantly, like, again,
yeah,
it never stops. That's the way I'm wired, and I think a lot
right,
of guys are out there. But what's changed the
100%.
most is my dedication to being a leader first. All right, and for me, leadership comes down to these couple of key things. Number one, don't expect anyone to grow your business if you don't share
Right,
the vision with them. If
yeah,
you can't
that's right,
point them to where you're going, and again, don't worry about what people are doing. Task based. Don't be task based. That's not your
right,
job or your role. Be objective
right,
based. Set an
yep,
objective. Set a goal. Understand where that goal is leading your company. All right. And again, you can be. You see how you can manage those things. You see how you can apply like your normal thing.
100%,
It's just one
100%,
shift in mindset and
right,
going, listen,
right,
instead of going below the bar and saying you shoulda, you coulda, you woulda, we done this, I wish we had that, go above the bar. Hey, you know what? I think we learned something here. What did we learn?
yeah,
Great. What are we not going to do again? Awesome. How can you help me to improve this? Great. Even if I have the answers, that's not my job. My job
Right.
is to coach, lead, like just reverse it. And you guess what?
Yeah.
It's less work. It's less
Right. A lot less
responsibility,
work.
less
Yes. Yes.
accountability. You're moving
Right.
that accountability, and you're giving people an opportunity to prove themselves, and that's what they want. That's that feeling they get
Right.
of like, hey, my boss trusts me. My boss is
Right.
giving me this shot, and
Right.
again, some people will embrace it. Those are your leaders, and you have to call them
Right.
out. And again,
Right.
these are dormant qualities that can be within people, and you would be amazed. Like when we do personality tests, I know what someone's capable of coming through the door,
Yeah.
and they have no clue. So my
Yeah.
job is to bring that out in them. And people are always like, "What are you doing?" Like I remember, I'll give you a really good example of this. One of my best project managers that we ever had. He's actually he's gone on and runs his own company. I help him all the time. Great guy. He
Awesome.
worked for me
Yeah.
for like a decade. Okay, he
Yeah.
started off as a laborer, and in the first 4 months,
Very
I knew he
cool.
had a
Yeah.
commander profile. All right,
Yeah.
and I watched him, and he was already getting the laborers to do what he was told. Like he was a
Right.
natural like leader, but he had no clue, no confidence, no
Right.
nothing. I did something
Right.
so bold that it almost caused a full on mutiny. I took him and I was like, you know what? This like by the time this kid learns to actually be a roofer and everything else,
Yeah.
provided it doesn't destroy his life in the intern, no jack. But I'm really like I have a gap that he could fill now. It would be a push,
Yeah.
but I feel like he had what it took, and I made him.
Yeah.
You know what I did? I made him a project manager. And people, my guys that worked for me for like, what the
That's it.
hell? Like,
Yeah.
he started him off as the gopher, like as the gopher. But I just,
Yeah.
I mentored him and I coached him. And
Yeah.
I want to tell you, one of my proudest moments, because I had senior guys at that time, 10, 15 years, threatening to quit. And like, that's a big deal, right? I have
That's a huge
operations
deal.
manager. I have, all my managers just looking at me like I'd lost my mind. Like my mom at the time was on our board, and she literally was like worried about me doing drugs. Like, what are you thinking? Right. And I was like, man, all this, but I knew what I was doing for this one reason. I'm like, I'm gonna give this kid
Yeah.
a shot. He at the time
Yeah.
he was 24. Okay, actually he started with
Yeah.
me when he's 22.
Yeah.
He was the youngest guy we had at that time. But
Yeah.
guess what? Within 6 months, he was running almost 100 projects. He had run them. My
Wow.
customer
That's
service
awesome.
level went up. Like our
That's great.
profitability went up. He was
That's
on top
great.
of it. And here's the thing that I love
Yeah.
the most about it, and where I kind of got that moment of I told you so. And I remember like within 6 months being like, come at me again and tell me I'm wrong about this, right? But one of the like, how you meet, like when you hit that precedent, it just comes out of nowhere where you're like, you know what,
Yeah.
this was an absolute like home run, like grand
Huge
slam,
man. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was when we looked at our profitability and we looked at how much he had reduced overages and improves customer satisfaction. And the conversation I had with my project manager, or my foreman at the time, had been with me 15 years, was like, I didn't think he could do this, but like he is the best
Crushed it.
project
Yeah.
manager I've ever worked for, because he was there to serve. He served our
Yeah.
guys. He had
Yeah.
something to prove. He made sure jobs were set up, ran,
Yep.
customers were called, like everything we wished for and more. And he took
Right.
initiative.
Yeah.
He took this initiative, and it didn't take much, right? But again, that's an example of, when you discover leadership, what you're looking for in people, right? Because now I'm looking at a specific behavior, not skills. Okay, skills can be taught,
Right.
all right, but
Right.
behavior is either natural on that side or not. All right. So
Yeah.
if you want a really good manager for a foreman, perfect. Don't try and make that foreman your project manager who has to lead the jobs, right?
Right.
And when you
Right.
start to let people develop as leaders, and you coach them on being a leader, you don't have to be the best leader anymore, do you?
Right. That's
Right?
right. Well, and you said something too, Jay, that I want to go back to, because one of the moments for me, because you and I we've talked about this obviously a lot off, well, not obviously, but you'd have talked about this a lot offline. We're wired the same in that, like, we know that we like to a fault, we end up doing things ourselves.
Right.
And when you have a skill, it's so easy to have that mentality, if it's meant to be, it's up to me kind of a thing.
Yep.
And that is a that's a gift and it's a skill and it's an advantage, but it can also hurt. And
Yes,
one of the things that one of the moments that was really important for me in the last several years in the contracting business was realizing that even though I was the boss and all of that, I worked for them.
that's
And when I
absolutely
like made that mental switch,
right.
where I was like, I work for you and really thought of myself more as a coach
Yeah,
than the CEO and the guy running all the big jobs and everything. That was because I approached my men differently.
that's right.
And it changed everything about
Everything.
how because I would never, I mean, we all have our moments and I certainly have some that I'm not proud of, that happened over, whatever. But I, it changed. It was such a huge shift for me from rolling up and looking for all the shit that was wrong and why are we on this wall? We're supposed to be on that wall, and where's so and so,
Right.
and what happened to this, and why did so and so call off? What the hell's going on? And
Hmm.
when I shifted away from that and was like, I work for you, I'm here to serve you, and tell me how I can help you
Right.
do what you need to do to get the objectives that you need to get to. Because,
Totally
you know,
different outcome, right?
we don't give our, yeah, I mean, I didn't give them, early days. We had these, again, super skilled, super talented men and women. And, didn't get, they were treated like kindergartners, like
Right.
children. And guess what? They behaved
That's right.
that
You get
way,
what? That's
right?
right.
They acted like they were treated, which is,
Hmm.
by the way, normal. We all do that.
Hmm.
So, when I got out of my own way and realize and like made this like realize like, and it wasn't just like something I said because I didn't say it very much, but to me it was like I work for you and I'm here to serve you and I'm here to help you get the thing we know we got to do. So help me, like tell me what you need and I'll do everything I can to deliver it.
Hmm.
And that was game changing.
Let me ask you something, because this is always an interesting conversation, and I've witnessed it happen time and time again. So like I can sit here, and I can easily say that leadership can be taught. Leadership
Yeah.
is naturally within some people,
Right.
and even if it's not, okay, there's something that happens in your personal life that makes you a good leader or not. So I'm wondering, and I'm
Oh,
curious behind all that, like in your personal life and like your self development, I should say, not so much personal life.
sure.
Was there a
Sure.
switch or something that changed there? I know you're always, in terms of personal development stuff, you're always working on yourself, but like what led you to discovering that?
Yeah.
Because that's always what I find the most
Mm.
interesting. I'll share mine with you first, of where like
Yeah. Go
my
ahead.
moment, my aha moment
Please.
was in terms of my poor leadership. Um,
Okay. Here we go.
it, so so it brings me back to before the fire that we set and all that kind of stuff, because I was managing my business but not well.
Right.
Like things were really going downhill, and like I won't get into the whole story with that, but
Mhm.
it took a very traumatic event and literally burning my business down, and having
Right.
it crash and burn, and being sued for millions of dollars, and fighting fighting the Catholic Church and all those unfavorable things.
Everyone watching this is
I,
like, what the hell is he talking about?
I'll tell the story another time. It's a long one. So, but yeah, I made a big mistake as an owner, as a leader, and I've been making many mistakes up to that point. But the problem
Sure.
is it's so hard to reflect when you're like when you've put yourself in that position. But I had my hand in absolutely every single thing,
Yeah.
and I can't be good at everything, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't able to delegate. I was running around stressed out. I like my communication skills were so poor. Like I would go to a job site and guys thought I was schizophrenic. I was just all over the place, like screaming, yelling, like what I mean. Like those aren't
Yeah.
leadership skills. So when
Right.
everything happened, I had some deep reflections to do, and I was in very big trouble. They had taken
Sure.
away our insurance, and like it was a bad situation for
Wow.
anybody.
Whew. Yikes.
And our bank, actually got a crisis manager involved, for us,
Okay.
because it was a
Yeah.
a very big crisis, and that
Right.
crisis manager asked me, some questions kind of when we first met. Um, and it wasn't so much on the business side, but it was like it forced me to really look at my lowest point, at how I had gotten to that place.
Yeah.
And he asked me, like, again, they're simple questions like, who'd you have in charge?
Yeah.
I was. It's like, oh, okay. And how many people were on site? Like, there was 7. Oh, okay. And how many job sites do you have going? Like 22. They're like, so how could you have been on site and leading that team?
Right.
Right? So that was like leading the team. Like I was there. He goes, okay. And he's
Yeah.
like, tell me, like, who's your executive management? I'm like, well, I am. And he just kept going down the list. He's like, well, tell me a little bit about like the structure of the business. I'm like, they're like, who's managing safety? I'm like, I am. And like, and he's going, finally
Yeah.
he got to a point where he put down his thing. He was writing all these notes down. He goes, Mr. Carter, do you want, like, he's like, I have never seen a company this size with one person doing every
Right.
single executive role. He's like,
Right.
can you imagine like the liability and the risk that you've taken with this? I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah. And
Mhm.
he's like, it's my job to get you, to get everybody, out of this situation. He's like, but moving forward, what are you going to do to prevent this from happening again? And that was like a dagger. It may not,
Right.
come across that way right now, but I was like, you know what? Like, I never thought about any of these things.
Yeah.
I never imagined somebody else doing these jobs for me or wearing these hats. I just did it. I responded, I reacted.
Yeah.
And for that, I received 80, 90-hour weeks, stressed out, no time with my
Right.
family. Like, I wasn't running a business. That's a joke.
Right.
So what had to change? And this was that moment, was like, I had people that I could have had in charge. I
Right.
had the resources. I had
Right.
the skill, the talent. In fact, I had more than I had personally, but I couldn't give
Right.
up control because I felt I needed to be in charge. And being in
Right.
charge is not leadership. That is not going to get you a result.
Right.
You are essentially, you are you're destroying your leadership, right? You're destroying the qualities that people bring to the table naturally, and you're basically saying, to them inadvertently, by micromanaging and by doing these silly things, okay, not only putting
Right.
stress on yourself, but you're saying you're not worthy. I don't see you. I don't, your
Yeah.
skills aren't valuable to me. All right.
Right.
And that willingness to now ask, now again, as I had to climb out of that disaster, I know that I didn't have the strongest leadership skills. And that was the very first thing, as a
Yeah.
self-improvement
Wow.
thing that I did,
Yeah.
was I
Yeah.
looked very, because at that point I didn't even, like, I thought I was like, I was in debt $8 million. It exceeded our insurance when we burnt down this very big property. Again, I'll tell this story another time. I won't get deep into it, but I was in
Right.
very big trouble, huge debt. And
Yeah.
at that point, I had two options. It was give up, let them, sue you into
Right.
bankruptcy, and never.
Right.
And the crisis manager said it to me. It's like, you only have two directions. Either you learn or improve or like fix these things so they don't happen again, or you
Right.
prevent them as much as you can, or you just give up. And I promise you'll never get back to this point again. You will
Right.
never get back here by the time you're finished and they're finished with you. You'll never
Right.
stand at this precipice again. So, like, as bad as it seems, all right, you're going to have to pull something out of you that you don't even there's no signs of. So
Right.
I took that to heart, and I knew exactly what he's saying. It was the way that he positioned it as well, and like, it was very clear by the end of our conversation that it wasn't lack of people, lack of qualifications, because I had them all. Like,
Right.
it was
Yeah.
me. It was me that
Yeah.
caused that problem. Not I didn't
Right.
set the fire, but it was 110% my fault it happened.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I couldn't point the finger at anybody. And from that point on, I had some time to reflect, obviously. I had a lot emotionally to deal with, and I felt,
Yeah.
that day was the first day that I started growing into the leader I've become now, right?
Yeah.
And the decisions I make now, are always like I always it's the trauma of that event and the trauma of everything that
Yeah.
happened that forced me to become the leader. It forced me to think differently. It forced me to understand I can't do everything. I can't be
Right.
everything. I'm not the smartest guy in the room, and nor should I ever
I know.
try to be, right?
Right.
So again, where I'd like to save people the biggest, hardest, don't ever do it the way I did it. That is the like that's a PhD in learning what the hell you have to do, right? Like don't
Right.
do it that way, please.
Right.
Yeah, again,
Right.
yeah, like it's very traumatic, all right? Like but here's a lesson you can take from it and learn from it and already start to do. The more that you invested in yourself, okay? So again, what did I do? I got coaches, I got consultants, I
Yeah.
found mentors.
That's right.
I stopped I showed vulnerability, first of all, admitting I was wrong, because that was very hard for
Yes.
me. All right.
Yeah.
I recognized the qualities I didn't have and what would have prevented that, and it was leadership. And again, as a fearless leader, I was actually the opposite. I was a
Right.
scared
Yeah.
little boy every
Yeah.
day, just fighting off. Like there's no glory in being tough like that. That's tough, stupid,
Yeah.
right? So
And it's expensive too.
very, very. They're
Tough is
right.
expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Catholic Church don't play around. They come for their money. They're serious people. They
Right.
know how to collect. So, again,
Right.
the takeaway from what I've just shared with you, and some will get it, some won't, but the sooner you begin to develop those skills, even if it's not comfortable for you, even if like it was
Right.
not comfortable for me at that point, it was the last thing I
Yeah.
wanted to do, but I knew that
Right.
what had gotten me there, all right, was not going to get me out of there. And then ironically to, kind of, add a silver lining if we can, after many years of lawsuits and back and forth and major
Yeah.
payouts and millions of dollars, I got to the point where my leadership started running the company and people recognized the leadership and I got buy-in and I got,
Yeah.
where I'm starting to be able to hire comfortably executives and have
Right.
people manage things for me better than I could ever do. But until I could do that, until I could get past that, and that is what I wanted the whole time. But I was just working
Yeah.
hard at it. I was
Yeah.
just, but again, that one thing changed to me that allowed all of these other
Yeah.
things to come into my world that have got me here today.
Well, and the what I'll say is my experience was very similar. I had 3 jobs that helped take us almost $1 million into the hole in losses, which we did not have.
Hmm.
That was, it was tough times, and I was I mean, I was like, I can't do this. So I thought I
Hmm.
was this talented business guy and I could go from
Right.
another industry
Gets
and
his
come in
ass
and
handed to him.
be a
Yeah.
great, and I just got kicked just
Yeah.
repeatedly in the dick. And I let go.
Hmm.
I was like, you know what? I've got a lot to learn, and I said those things to my team. I was
Right.
like, I've made a lot of big mistakes. I'm here to learn, and I basically just I
It's the
stopped trying to
vulnerability. Right.
do everything. Yeah, I was totally. I mean, as transparent as you can be. I was just like, look, I own this. This job was my job. This job was my job. This job was
Hmm.
my job. I mean, I didn't lose all the 800,000, but I mean, I was a big chunk of it, and I was like,
Yep.
I own this. So, I'm going to do everything I can to, help us, but I need your help. And I just asked for help. I was
Right.
which was hard to do because, without getting
Pride,
into it,
ego, all those things. Right.
well, and there were a lot of people on my team that weren't really on my team.
Right. Right.
They did not want me to succeed.
Of course.
So, I said those things knowing that there were people that were dancing on my grave, like, like every day, every afternoon in group chats. And I saw some of them later, by the way, but, you know, like I knew that that was happening, but I just let go of it. I was like,
Hmm.
I can't, I can't change, I can't change anybody's mind, but I don't have any control over what anybody thinks or feels,
Hmm.
but I do control this,
Right.
and I can do something with
That's
this.
right.
And so I let go of all the stuff and just, and decided, okay, there's a couple things I can work on that I'm good at, and just like kind of like you, just started chipping away. And that's
And
when I decided, like, I work for them. And it was like the transformation, it all happened in like 6 months.
right.
Um, so so anyway, yeah, I very similar experience, very similar experience. And what I realized, like I knew in principle
Hmm.
that like the chokehold on your business, on my business is me. I knew it here, but then like when I owned that in here
Hmm.
and I let go, I mean, I became a overnight like a better leader.
Right.
And my people responded just like yours
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, and I mean, again, here's the mindset shift. So maybe I can kind of summarize it in a sentence. Okay,
Okay.
a leader's job is to get it right, not to be right. Okay, when you
Right.
can own and
Well
accept
said.
that, all right,
Yeah.
you become a better leader almost naturally. An owner's job
Right.
and a leader's job is to get it right, not to be right. A
Right.
manager's job is to be right. All right, because
Mhm.
again, when they're leading a team and they're managing a project at a micro level, okay, they have to be right, right? If you don't know,
Right.
plumbing specs and all these other, like, just think of that
Right.
in general. You don't get that luxury when when you're in leadership, right? So like, again,
Right.
that's the
Right.
transition point. So being wrong as an electrician, a plumber, like those are no-nos, right? But
Right.
that's what's bred in. And when you apply that principle to business, it's the opposite of what works. So this is where guys get stuck. And again, when you make that transition of I'm no longer on the tools and I have to lead these electricians, I have to lead these
Right.
plumbers, these roofers, my sub trades, all of that. It's really allowing yourself to let go, be vulnerable, because a good leader is
Right.
vulnerable. They're approachable. They're things
100%.
they're discussing.
100%.
But
Yeah.
too often we take the manager's role where they have to be fearless and know everything and give
Right.
strong orders and instructions. Well,
Right.
you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself, right? Which
A
we can all
lot.
agree,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But it's when these are the little things you can start to tell yourself that are going to get you into line. And I remember having to remind myself all the time in conversations and understanding what's below the line and above the line. A leader's going to give the vision first. Hey, you know what? It didn't work out right this way. Where are we
Right.
headed? What did we learn? Versus you should have done it like this. I told you to do it like that. I want this, I want that. Like those are manager qualities. They aren't going to get you where you want to be. They'll never get you freedom either. They'll get you a job. All right. They'll
Right.
get you a very low level
Right.
job. So breaking those chains, and it's hard. It's hard because you've just spent
Yeah.
whatever many years having that drilled down you and
Right.
getting, where we get our validation from, right? So in your role as a manager, maybe you worked for another company, like you were validated as being a great manager. Man, you really controlled that
Right.
job. You really, like, you know what
Right.
I mean? Like there wasn't a lot of praise
Yeah.
for your strong leadership because it wasn't required, right?
Right.
Now your validation has to come from a place that doesn't exist or you're unaware of. So the first step to really getting there
Right.
as a business, all right, is learn to validate yourself. All right.
Yep.
If you're still unsure, and again, everybody wants to be led, me too, right? Just show me how to do this. Like just make this
Yep.
happen, make it go away. Make the investment in yourself. If you're considering that jump from, and you're having these symptoms and these problems, I almost promise you 90% of the time it's going to be you and the leadership style and quality that you're bringing to the table.
Right.
Like those
Right.
shifts in yourself are going to make the most dramatic difference. And we just talked about two huge turnarounds and
Right.
differences in like scope. Don't let it get to the point of crisis. Start now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Identify
Don't
it.
do what we did.
Yeah.
Do better than
Right.
us.
And it's a day-to-day thing, right? It's reprogramming the way that you see things. And guess what, guys? You want to relieve that anxiety, that stress, that being up all night, just wanting to kill people that aren't doing what they're supposed to
Right.
do, and you're not
Right.
getting the performance. Go and look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself,
Right.
if I was my boss, would I respect me?
Right.
Right? And the answer for me was an
Yeah.
unbelievable fuck no. I wouldn't work for
Right.
me. I wouldn't want me. I wouldn't even wanted the guy I was back then. I wouldn't even
Right.
allow him in my house around my children right now. Like, no, not even. I mean it. I'm being honest. Like he was an
Yeah.
absolute piece of shit
Yeah.
because I
Right.
didn't have control of all of these things and all these things I wasn't understanding and I wouldn't invest and
Yeah.
figure out. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't getting screwed, like the wrong reasons, all
Right.
the wrong, no vision, no map, no idea where we're going.
Right.
And that, again, everything just keeps up to you, and stupid me just, continually trying to respond. But what was I protecting in all that? That's the real thing. I was protecting my ego. I was protecting
Right.
my feelings that have no place in
Yes.
this whole. That's not a good leadership.
Yeah.
When I'm so small inside, that my ego or the way that I perceive myself matters,
Right.
right? That
Right.
doesn't mean shit. And again,
Right.
it's what you do on a day-to-day basis. It's what's going in and out of your head, your thoughts, that
Right.
allow you to become a great leader. It allows you to,
Well,
grow as a person and be a good husband and good partner and good, like, it has application all over your life, right?
yeah, the interesting thing that happens there, Jay, and this last thing I'll say on this is, um, so I again had the same experience, and when I let go of all that ego and and stopped caring about
Felt better.
where I was in the company and all that, and did people perceive me as this and that?
Right.
When I let go of all that, the interesting thing is, of course, the business. I mean, things took off, and
Yep.
um,
But that's a lagging indicator.
well, it is, and I was going to say that, and then I had more, and then I had more significance, and respect than I
Hmm.
mean, than
That
I
gives
could
you
ever have
drive. Right.
gotten. Yeah, because I didn't have to ask for it, right? I
Right.
mean, I was no, I mean, eh, I was known as the guy that did
Right.
the things, and interestingly enough, I didn't really care about it that
Right.
much.
Right.
It
It
meant,
did. It's not
I mean,
important
I
anymore, right? It's not.
appreciated it. No, it
Right.
wasn't, because it wasn't what drove me, and, again, of course, I mean, there was great, pride and satisfaction and fulfillment in the accomplishments, and all of that, and it's better to have money, and, to run a healthy business. However, the things that I hold on to today are, the connections, the doing it with my
Hmm.
people, and connected together, that tribal thing that we
Yep.
did is really
It's
special.
culture. It's
Eh,
culture, right?
yeah, yeah. So anyway, so we um, we are here. We're here every Friday at 3 o'clock Eastern time. And a couple things before we sign off today. So we have had, in the last 2 months. I'm staggered at seeing it's like my notifications
Yeah.
are like half of them are Contractor AI,
Right.
people joining our group, and you know yes, Jay is a social media ninja, and
Mm.
so the people are seeing our ads, and they're responding. So kudos there. But the reason, really why people are joining our group is that, people are getting real results. And we talked about this last week, and I'm just going to say, as we kind of finish up our live stream today, it's, I am not a small minded person, but I am continuously surprised at the quick,
Hmm.
and it's not just like little, it's not like little wins, like, oh, I hired a couple people. It's like, I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, continuously, I mean, and one of the things I think that gets, one of the things that gets me the most is that, is the strategies to go in to the pipeline and get the dead leads. I love that,
Yeah.
because frankly, I mean, I closed a lot of work, and I ran a lot of work,
Hmm.
but that's hard. It's hard to one first of all, even get a response, let alone get these six-figure contracts
Hmm.
that folks in our group, and some of these folks, they're not clients, they're just in the group,
Yeah. It's
right?
all. Yeah. We're
They're
giving
not
that
even
away for
clients of
free.
Contractor
We're getting
AI. They're
way
just
bigger
in our
results with
group.
our actual clients. I mean, again,
Yeah, right.
I get to see it from that end. Our actual clients, and again, what I love about what we're doing here is this community. All right. In order to have a community, you have to have good leaders, right? Good leaders
Right.
give, they support. And I'm not
Right.
surprised by the results I'm seeing, because all it takes is having a good group of people that, know some core things, sharing those things, being willing to be vulnerable and
100%.
open. That's what we,
100%.
that's the core values we want to bring to this community. And,
Right.
and I'll say this, we've brought in, we're at like 700 right now, but we've turned away 2,500
Wow.
applicants, 2,500 other people we could have
Wow.
had. And the reason we did that
Crazy.
is because, number one, if you're coming into our Facebook group and you're not prepared to answer the first three questions, that's a red flag.
Right.
We're not
Right.
here just, to not have community members. This is the whole thing about it.
Right.
The people I'm selecting, the people that I'm having come into the group, I'm expecting that they're going to ask questions. They're going to ask for help. They're going to,
Right.
that's kind of our core values. They're going to help others when they have a problem, and then watch the results happen. Right? One mind is only capable, and I just shared my story with you of how isolating and terrible it is to
Right.
be on your own.
Right.
Had I
Right.
had, a support group, and again, I understand people are at different levels, and we do. We want to help, and we want to, give out to the community so that we have a community. So that's what I'm super pumped about, and what I love seeing. And again, when you get a whole group of people working towards the same goals in their life and their business, watch the results fly off. Like, I mean,
Right.
again, that is the catalyst. That's what we're building. That's what I want, anybody that's listening to that hasn't joined the group, jump in there, see what it's all about. Again,
Yeah.
if I'll accept you, remember I gave you a hint there. You know, prove that you're a contractor. Prove you're a
Yeah.
contractor. I'm not.
Right. If you're a
I'm not having guys
contractor.
coming in and spamming people, and
Nope.
I don't want any of that. If I can't prove you're a contractor, you're not coming in, right? Sorry.
Yeah.
We want to protect what we're building here, and it's all about having people feel like they have a safe place to come and ask
Right.
questions, share their fears, share their concerns. We have members now really
Right.
starting to open up and getting back responses, and that's the valuable asset here. That's the thing that people should be looking for, even if it's not with us, but looking for in general.
Well, I'm going to say this. I was a part of a contractor mastermind
Mm,
group, and that will remain unnamed, and had thousands of people in the group. And we have more, so we have a fraction of the people,
hmm
but we have more, there's more stuff going on between, not just between us and community members, between themselves
Yeah.
than I ever saw there,
Right.
right?
Well, and
Um,
it's the example we're setting too. Like, look at like how many people bring free courses. Like, we're giving away,
right,
and
right,
not to sound conceited here, but like I'm giving away what those $30,000 coaching programs did.
right,
If you
right.
like, I'll give that to you. Like, again,
Agree, yeah,
like that's the kind of value I want to set as the tone for this group. Is that
right,
when you come in, again, if we accept you, this is a community. I'm going to share with you. I'm sharing, right off the bat, you're going to get value, but respect that, right? Respect our core values. If somebody's having a
100%.
problem that you can solve and you can reach out, even if it's just, aligning with what the issues, that's all that we're asking back in return, is that you be
Right,
active, and that, you ask, you get questions asked,
right.
you
Raise
ask
your
for
hand,
resources,
yeah,
put your hand up,
yeah.
we'll help you out. And, again, that's what I think I'm really excited about, and what everybody should,
It's
try and kind of experience.
it's one of the coolest things, and again, last thing I'm going to say here, and then we'll sign off is, again, and I've been in others that weren't contractor specific, where again there were tens of thousands of people,
hmm
and I'm in one. There's almost 1 million people in this one, and there's not as much people communicating with one another as we have, and we haven't hit 1,000 yet.
Right.
So I'm really, I mean, really proud of that,
hmm
and credit to the Contractor AI team. Everybody's working hard to make it that,
hmm
and it's just a really cool place to be. So click the links, and you click the Contractor AI link, and there's a join our group in there. It's that simple. Answer the questions, prove you're a contractor,
Right.
and and outside of some crazy thing, you're in. So
Yep.
thanks for being with us, everybody. Jay and I are here every Friday at 3 o'clock Eastern time. Jay goes live every Thursday. Well, goes live. I mean, in our group, and does free trainings. So again, some of these things we're talking about, he's again sharing plays and strategies, whether it comes to marketing or sales, which is some of the things we're talking about right now. And it is invaluable. And again, people are coming, and I mean, we're getting these comments back like, "Hey, I did this. Hey, I did this. Oh my God, this worked. It's really cool." So the folks that are getting value right now. And if you want, again, if you're a contractor and this sounds pretty interesting, just grab the link, click it, and we'll get you in, then probably within 30 minutes. So thanks for being with us. We'll be back next week, and we'll see you then.
Bye.